Okay, so harm to the person, something certainly a lot of people might consider, but here's a question. What if you do cause harm? Can you get sued for it, even though you were trying to help? What's your liability in a situation like that? Well, interesting to note, a Good Samaritan law is in place in most parts of the country, protecting people who are trying to do good, even if something goes terribly wrong, like breaking someone's ribs during CPR. The law is even stricter in Quebec, where people are under a legal obligation to provide assistance. And while Good Samaritan laws have been tested in court, they've generally stood up to legal challenges. Now, here's the law in BC, which we've condensed to just the important bits for you. It says, a person who renders emergency medical services is not liable for damages for injury to or death of that person, unless that person is grossly negligent. So while anyone can technically sue you for anything, the case would likely be thrown out unless you did something really crazy, like do chest compressions with a hammer. That might constitute gross negligence. I will say there is a nuance to the rule where a person performing emergency CPR may very well be held to a higher standard. Here's lawyer Eric Goodman to explain.
For instance, with a paramedic, if they assisted, they broke some ribs, for instance, the question would be, did they act reasonably? Did they use the standard of care that one would expect of a paramedic? If you or me stepped in to assist, it's not even the standard of negligence. It's not the question of whether or not we acted reasonably. The question would be, were we grossly negligent? And the definition of that is essentially, did we act with a willful disregard of the need to use a reasonable standard of care?
So paramedics, doctors, firefighters, anyone whose job it is to save lives, they're held to a higher bar. But if it's not your job, it's less strict. So at this point, if you're thinking about brushing up on your life-saving skills, your best bet is probably a basic life support course.